What's going on, guys? Before we get into today's videos, I am Ham, the other owner of the Booster Busters. I wanted to tell you guys about this awesome channel named Animal Wire. I've been over there browsing their content. They have some awesome content. From weird, mysterious sea creatures to funny, cute newborns. They definitely keep up to date with all the wildlife happenings around the world. Be sure to check out Animal Wire. Link will be down in the description, and tell them I sent you. Hope you guys enjoy the video.
So it's been about a month now since hackers brought Sony Pictures down to its knees, and it does not appear as if there is any end in sight. In fact, by the time we're done with this video, you're going to realize that these hackers pretty much have Sony Pictures by the balls, and they are beginning to twist. So there have been a lot of new developments since the last video that I put up whenever this story first broke. Pretty much every expert agrees that this is one, if not the biggest hacking attack to ever happen on any company ever. So this is pretty bad, and a lot of people say that it is going to cost Sony a small fortune in order to just recover to get back online. As of this past week, Sony is still not online, and they're telling their employees not to send emails. In fact, apparently the hackers are still in the system because just over the weekend, new images appeared on the PCs that were turned on, because we've talked about how a lot of those PCs were actually destroyed, like they went in and cleared out the hard drive on a lot of them and locked them up. But for the ones that are still turned on, there was a message that appeared earlier this week threatening a 9/11 style attack if the movie The Interview was in fact released. Now also, this just coming in just a few minutes ago, New York Times reporting that intelligence officials claim that the FBI has found links to leaders of North Korea. So they say that North Korea did order the attacks on Sony. I don't know what proof they have of that, but they say that they have several indicators that that is indeed what happened. And that's what a lot of people suspected because of the movie The Interview, which Sony has coming out Christmas Day, or at least had coming out on Christmas Day. We'll get to that here in just a moment. So first off, what has been leaked so far, has been pretty damning. And what's bad is that apparently there is still a lot more that can be leaked. So far, they say about 100 gigabytes worth of data has been leaked. We've talked about movies being leaked before they hit theaters. We've talked about how there was like 47,000 social security numbers of employees and former employees. In fact, 2 former employees filed a class action lawsuit against Sony today in court over not protecting their data. Also, medical records from families who work there have been leaked. That could bring about more lawsuits. Confidential info on actors. There's been embarrassing emails between producers and directors and executives. One of the executives, who's been called one of the most powerful liberal women in Hollywood, she was caught sending racially charged emails about Barack Obama back and forth. One of the directors called Angelina Jolie a spoiled brat. It appeared that one of the directors felt up one of his transgendered nieces. So a lot of dirt is starting to come out, and because this is Hollywood, a lot of those things really weren't that surprising to a lot of people. But even though 100 gigabytes have been released, apparently the attackers stole more than 100 terabytes. So there is still a lot of information, and they are threatening a big attack on Christmas, or at least they were. So it started out this weekend where they threatened Sony. They said, look, you're going to have a big Christmas surprise show up on Christmas Day. So then they came out and they also sent a threat to movie theaters who are going to show this movie, The Interview. They said, if you show this movie, be warned. I'm paraphrasing here, but pretty much they promised an attack and referenced 9/11 as to how big this attack would be if this movie was to be shown. So then, after these threats had been announced, Sony came out and sent a message to all the theater chains. And they pretty much said, look, even though we have a contract for you, and you've told us that you're going to sign on to, you know, show this movie in your theaters. If you decide that you want to back out right now, that's cool. We won't hold you accountable. Look, if you think that there's a liability that could possibly be brought against you if something did happen for releasing this movie, then if you want to back out, go right ahead, and we're not going to hold you accountable for that. We're not going to go after you. Now, I honestly thought that this was a pretty good move by Sony, a good PR move. But then just a few hours ago, Sony threw in the towel. They decided to bow down and roll over. And they are pulling the movie The Interview on Christmas Day. So they're not going to be showing it. They're not going to be distributing it to anybody. And that's kind of scary when you think about it. Because these people have Sony by the balls so much that they have halted what Sony can do. And it doesn't just affect Sony. This is already spreading and having other implications. I just saw a story flash across where a Steve Carell movie about North Korea has now been scraped. So basically, you have Hollywood throwing up their hands and surrendering and censoring certain projects simply because they might offend somebody. They might offend somebody who already hates us and hates everything that we stand for. And it really makes you stop to wonder what sort of dirt the hackers have on Sony to make Sony bend over backwards in order to meet these demands. And another thing that's really disturbing about this whole ordeal is, one, there were also several reports from supposed insiders who said that Sony's security team was a joke and that the leaders had decided that the money it was allocated, it was better financially to take the risk to allow security holes to remain open and to just take the risk and probability that you may not be hit. And if you are hit, well, we can just handle with the lawsuits or whatever else, and it won't be that big of a deal. But that made more financial sense than investing money into trying to close the security holes that they were aware of. Because apparently there were a lot of security holes that was made aware to them in the last few months. There was a email that was shown off back in February where apparently 47,000 people, their computers and information were at risk from visiting a Sony website because it could have possibly exposed them to malware. And Sony didn't say anything about this. So the only reason this info got out now was because of these leaked documents. But one thing is for sure, that this is going to be a long, drawn-out ordeal for Sony, and we may not even be seeing the peak of it as it stands right now. But as I mentioned in my first video, as of right now, we have no reports that anything other than content from Sony Pictures was taken. So we don't have any information that suggests that PlayStation users, for instance, are in any sort of harm's way. But it was reported early on that the hacks were found on PlayStation Network servers. So we do know that it was on PlayStation Network servers, but we don't know that they actually infiltrated PlayStation networks. But I must say that I am definitely pretty disappointed that Sony would pull the movie. You know, if nothing else, they should at least distribute it digitally, just to send a message that freedom of speech trumps any threat. But so far, they have decided to instead lay down and roll over. As always, if you want to read more about it, links down in the description box. Post below. Let me know, do you think Sony made the right decision by pulling this movie, or should they be releasing it? If nothing else, releasing it digitally. Post below. Let me know your thoughts, and stay tuned right here to this channel and to VGN. That does it for me, the Red Dragon. I'll see you next time. Thanks for watching.
Hate kill me cause your face is flustered? Now I got another episode for Booster Busters. Got me in full swing, but I ain't talking back. Record you raging now. Now let me upload that. Try hard's always raging, then they get to fussing. They always rage quit, and then they start cussing. I'm trolling online, but I ain't saying nothing, cause if I'm in your game, then I'm Booster Busting.